We know that ARM processors can execute 13-bit ARM instructions or 16-bit thumb instructions. Here, the point to be noted is how the program counter values gets updated whenever an ARM instruction is fetched and whenever a thumb instruction is fetched. Because ARM instructions are 32 bits, the program counter which holds the address of the next instruction to be fetched gets incremented by 4, and whenever the processor is fetching thumb instructions, the program counter gets incremented by 2. So for a 3-stage pipeline, fetch, decode and execute, how the program counter contents are getting updated is shown here. So here it is given as PC, PC minus 4, PC minus 8. So one thing you must recollect, the instructions are stored sequentially in the memory locations, and the recently fetched instruction or the instruction that is currently being pointed by the program counter will have the highest address. The old instructions which have already been fetched, decoded and executed will have an address value less than the current instruction which is being pointed by PC. So that is why here it is shown as PC, which points to the next instruction to be fetched, PC minus 4, which was the instruction currently being fetched and available in the fetch stage, and PC minus 8 is the address of the instruction that is available in the decode stage, and PC minus 12 will be the address of the instruction that is presently available in the execute stage. So PC always points to the next instruction that is to be fetched. The same is the case for thumb instructions. Here the program counter content gets changed by 2 every time. ARM instructions can be broadly categorized into 3 types: data processing instructions, which operate on the values in the register; data transfer instructions, which simply moves the values between registers and memory; and control flow instructions, which change the value of the program counter and hence the sequence in which the programs are executed gets altered. Let us start with data processing instructions. All the operands are 32 bits in size, whether they are specified in registers or made available as immediate values along with the instruction. They have to be in 32 bits in size, and also the result produced is 32 bit in size, which are saved in the specified register. But with one exception: long multiply generates 64 bit results. All the operands and the result registers are independently specified as part of the instruction. Some arithmetic instructions are listed here. Add R0, R1, R2. So 3 operands are specified in the instruction. R0 is the destination register. R1 and R2 are the source registers. So it performs this operation. R0 is loaded with the sum value R1 plus R2. Similarly, add with carry ADC, SUB stands for subtract, SBC stands for subtract with carry, and RSB stands for reverse subtract. RSC stands for reverse subtract with carry. So in why do we need reverse subtract? One may think. So there are some cases where flexibility on one of the operand is needed. Usually here the third operand or the second source operand R2 can be altered by multiplying it with some constant value, or shifting it using the barrel shifter, and then from that manipulated data a constant value residing in R1 can be subtracted. So this kind of operations are needed in some cases. So this reverse subtraction is useful for certain operations, which we'll be seeing in the forthcoming slides. And also all the operations can be viewed as either unsigned or 2's complement signed operations. So some more data processing instructions. These are bitwise logical instructions: AND, OR, XOR, bit clear. BAC stands for bit clear. And here also 3 operands are used: R0, R1 and R2. So logically every bit present in the operands are ANDed. So bitwise AND operation is performed. Similarly bitwise OR and XOR operations are performed. Now coming to this bit clear, R0 is replaced with R1 and not of R2. So which means that whichever positions R2 was having a 1, those positions are inverted and then it is ANDed with R1. So it is nothing but we are clearing the corresponding bit positions in R1 by setting a 1 in the register R2, and the result is saved in R0. That is called bit clear. So R2 is having a bit pattern, and whichever bit positions there is a 1, the corresponding bit positions in R1 are cleared. So that is R1 and not of R2. Now this is about register move instruction. Move R0, R2 actually copies the content of R2 into R0. And another instruction, MVN, which stands for move negated, is of this format: R0, R2. So R0 is replaced with not of R2. So though they appear as data transfer instructions, because of this copy and small changes in the operand values, they can be classified as data processing instructions. So here we are able to see some compare instructions: CMP, CMN, that is negated comparison; TST for test; TEQ for test equality. CMP R1, R2, internally actually it subtracts R1, it does R1 minus R2 and sets the condition code flags. So N, Z, C, V are the condition code flags. N is for negative or sign, Z is 0 flag, carry flag, and overflow flag. V is for overflow flag. So internally when the processor does R1 minus R2, these condition code flags will reflect the result of that operation, and compare instruction is actually changing the flags alone. It doesn't produce any results in any of the registers. Similarly, compare negate. R2 is negated and then it is subtracted from R1. So it is actually R1 plus R2. R1 minus of minus R2 is R1 plus R2. So simply it adds R1 and R2 and the result is reflected in the condition code flags. Next, test instruction, TST R1, R2. Here R1 and R2 are logically ANDed. bitwise AND operation is performed, and the result is reflected in the condition code flags. So none of the contents of the registers are not modified. For all these 4 instructions, the condition code flags are reflecting the result, but the register contents all remain the same. Next, about test equal TEQ. Here this instruction checks the equality of the 2 operands. For that it performs XOR operation. So bitwise XOR operation between R1 and R2 is done. If all the operands are equal, then all the bits in the result will be 0 and the 0 flag will be set. If the 0 flag is not set, it indicates that both the operands were different. So thus the CPSR register condition code flags are used to reflect the results of the comparison instruction. Now using this example, we'll see how immediate operands can be specified in the instruction. So the first instruction, add R1, R2, #2. So immediate operands are specified using the notation hash. The value 2 is added with the R2's content and the result is stored in R1. Similarly, the next instruction, sub, where note the register R3 is used both as source as well as destination. So the R3 content is subtracted or decremented by 1, that is 1 is subtracted from R3 and the result is stored in R3. The next one, and R6, R4, hash ampersand 0F. Here this hash indicates that the following value is considered as immediate operand. There is one more notation, and ampersand. Ampersand indicates that this is a hexadecimal notation. So 0F is used, which is hexadecimal value. So instead of using decimal values, if we use hexadecimal value, ampersand has to be used. So here the least significant 4 bits are 1, that is logically ANDed with R4's register, and the result is stored in R6. One more point to be noted is the immediate operand can be anywhere between 0 to 255, which will occupy only 8 bits. So values larger than 8 bit of immediate operands cannot be used in the instructions. Now we will see an example where shifted register operands are used. ARM instruction set has the following shift and rotate instructions. LSL stands for logical shift left, LSR logical shift right, ROR for rotate right, RRX for rotate right extended by 1, ASL for arithmetic shift left, ASR for arithmetic shift right. So these shift and rotate instructions along with data processing instructions are used like this. So in the first example, add R1, R2, R3, LSL hash 3 indicates that the register third operand, that is the second source operand or the third operand field content, is shifted left by 3-bit positions, and then the resultant operand is added with R2, and finally the result is stored in R1. So R1 is equal to R2 plus shifted 3 times shifted version, left shifted version of R3. Similarly, in the next example, add R1, R2, R3, LSL R5. So here the number of times the shift to be done is specified in the register itself. So the shift count can be either directly given in the instruction or it can be specified in a register. So R5 is having a number that gives how many number of times the operand has to be shifted. So R3 is shifted by the number of times specified in R5, and the shifted version of R3 is added with R2, and the result is stored in R1. Now, apart from this simple logical shift left and right, there are also rotate instructions. So during rotate instructions, for rotate right, the least significant bit will come to the most significant bit. That's how the rotate operation is done. Now, in shift operations, as the bits are shifted by some number of times, the other end will be appended with logical zeros. So for logical shift left, the rightmost bit will be appended with zeros. For logical shift right, the leftmost bits will be appended with 0. Now in these arithmetic shift left and right instructions, whatever value the most significant bit was holding, that will be appended, or the least significant bit, that will be appended. So in arithmetic shift left, when the bits are shifted left, the rightmost position will be appended with the least significant bit values. In arithmetic shift right, as the shift happens in the right side, leftmost positions will be appended with the most significant values. Now rotate right extended by 1 includes the carry bit also. So apart from the 32-bit residing in the register, the carry flag is also considered as one of the bit, and the rotate is done. So the illustration is given in the next slide. So in the first example, LSL #5, logical left shift, the bits are shifted to the left, so in the right side 5 zeros are appended. LSR #5 shifts the bit to the right side 5 times, so in the left side, that is the most significant bit side, 5 zeros are appended. ASR #5 shifts the bits to the right, so in the left side, the most significant bits, whatever value the most significant bit was holding, that will be appended. So this is a positive operand, so 0 is appended here. Now with the same instruction, if there was a negative operand, the most significant bit will be 1, so the ones will be appended 5 times. So the next instruction is ROR, rotate right. So rotate right, all the bits will be shifted to the right. The least significant bit will be rotated back to the most significant bit side. So LSB will come to MSB. So this happens 5 times. In all these examples that we saw, the carry flag was not at all affected. But in the next instruction, RRX, rotate right extended by 1, so all the bits will be rotated to the right side, and the least significant bit will be loaded into the carry register, carry flag. So here some multiplication instructions are shown. Mul R1, R2, R3. This performs the multiplication, and the least significant 32 bits are returned to R1. Usually in multiplications, if two numbers of n bits in size are multiplied, it has to return 2n. So all the 64 bits are not considered as the result, only the 32 bits are returned in R1. One more thing to be noted is immediate operands are not supported in mul instruction. There are also versions where 64-bit results are supported, but that is not discussed here. So the next kind of multiply instruction is multiply and accumulate instruction, MLA, multiply and accumulate. So where four fields are there, R1, R2, R3, R4, the registers are holding the operands. R1 will be holding the final result. Here multiply as well as addition operation is performed. R2 and R3 are multiplied, and to that R4 is added, and the least significant 32 bits alone are stored in R1. So whenever multiply operation is involved, the returned value will be 2n bits, but here the result will be the least significant 32 bits. So almost all kinds of data processing instructions were covered. So next is about data transfer instructions. So ARM instruction set supports three types of data transfers: single register load and store, multiple register load and store, single register memory swap. So single register load and store instructions are usually flexible compared to multiple register load and store, and a single register can be loaded with either 8 bits, that is a byte, or 16 bits, that is a half word, or 32 bits. So all the registers in ARM are 32 bits in size. The multiple register load and store usually are used to have higher data rates. Multiple words, that is each word of 32 bits in size, can be loaded into multiple registers, and because of this the system will be able to achieve higher transfer rate. Then single register memory swap instructions are mainly used by systems where ARM processor along with operating systems are used. They are mainly used for implementing locks. An example will be semaphores. When operating system and ARM processors are used together to implement a semaphore, this kind of instructions are widely used. So here we are going to see few examples for single register load and store. Before that, one important point to be noted is all the ARM data transfer instructions make use of register indirect addressing mode. Now what is register indirect addressing mode? A register should be loaded with an memory locations address, and that register will be specified in an instruction. So that is called register indirect addressing mode. So before any data transfer is done, a register has to be initialized with a memory address. So in the given example, we are going to initialize R1 with the memory address. Now table, the word table here denotes a label. In assembly language program, we make use of labels. So the memory address of this table is loaded into R1. For that, this instruction is used. ADRL stands for address register load. Address register load. So the address of this label called as table will be loaded into R1. Now we are ready to do the data transfer using LDR and STR. So LDR loads into a register and STR stores from a register. So see the example shown here, LDR R0 comma square bracket R1. So here the data pointed by R1 is loaded into R0. So R1 is holding an address value, and in that addressed location, whatever data is present, that will be loaded into R0. So here R0 is acting as the destination, and the data pointed by R1 will be the source. STR, store instruction, is used like this: STR R0 comma, then register indirect address is used. So R1 is pointing to a location, where we have to store the operand present in the R0. So R0 is holding the data which should be loaded into the memory location pointed by R1. So R0 is now the first operand is actually considered as a source, and the location pointed by R1 will be the destination. So memory location pointed by R1 is loaded with R0. So next we'll see how single register load and store can be used along with register indirect with offset and auto indexing modes. So the first kind, simple form of register indirect without any offset, we have already seen. So we'll focus on the next type. LDR and STR can be used along with some offset values. So offset values are nothing but some immediate operand values specified in the instructions. So they are used along with hash symbol. So LDR R0 comma within square bracket R1 comma hash 4 will add the value 4 with the content of R1. So R1 is the register holding a memory address. So that address is incremented by 4 and a new location is pointed due to this. From that new location, the operand or data will be fetched and loaded into R0. So R0 will be loaded with the data that is pointed by the content of R1 plus 4. So this is how offset values are used. Similarly, for store operation, whatever value is present in R0 will be stored into a location pointed by R1 plus 12. So the immediate value whichever is present in along with the load store instructions are locally added, and the location pointed by the new address value, their data can be either loaded or stored. So this is how offset values are used. Now the next method is auto indexing method. Here you can see within the square bracket R1 comma hash 4 is present, and outside that there is an exclamatory symbol. So this exclamatory symbol is used to indicate auto indexing mode. So LDR R0 comma within square bracket R1 comma hash 4 exclamatory symbol will increase the value of R1 by 4 every time it is executed, and the location pointed by this new value is used for data accessing. So data present in that new location will be loaded into R0. Similarly, for store instruction, whatever is present in R0 will be stored into the memory location pointed by R1 plus 12. So after this instruction is executed, R1's value will be incremented by 4. If you compare register indirect with offset method and auto indexing method, in offset method the value of R1 does not get modified, whereas in auto indexing method the value of R1 gets modified. So the register which is used for indirect addressing gets modified in auto indexing method, whereas using offset method, locally the immediate operand value will be added with the register indirect address value, and that will be used for either load or store operation. Single register load and store instructions can also be used along with post indexing. Here a few examples are given. LDR R0 comma R1 within square bracket comma hash 4 will load the data present in the memory location pointed by R1 into the register R0, and after that the memory address is incremented by 4. So after the execution of this instruction, the register R1 will have a value which is incremented by 4. Similarly, in str instruction, the data present in the register R0 will be stored into the memory location pointed by R1, and after that the content of register R1 is incremented by 12. So next time if the same instruction is executed, it will be storing the content of R0 into a location which is now R1 plus 12. There are also instructions which can access bytes and half word. So B is used to denote that byte is accessed, and SH is used to denote that half word is accessed. So LDR B R0, R1 will load the 8 bits present in the memory location pointed by R1 into the register R0. So the data from the memory location R1 will be now occupying the least significant 8 bits in the register R0. Similarly, the store strb instruction will store the least significant bits from the register R0 into the memory location pointed by R1. So R1 is the register which is having the memory address. So the least significant 8 bits from the register R0 will be loaded into the memory location pointed by R1. LDRSH instruction will load 16 bits into the register R0 from the memory location pointed by R1. Similarly, STRSH will load the least significant 16 bits of the register R0 into the memory location pointed by R1. Load store instructions can also be used to access multiple registers and memory locations. So one example is shown here. The instruction is LDMIA R1, within curly braces R3, R5, R6. Here in the instruction LDMIA, LD stands for load, M for multiple, I for increment, A for after. So just by changing this I and A, lot of other operations are also possible. So coming to this instruction, we'll see how this LDMIA works. So R1 is the register which is having the memory address. So this address is used as register indirect address, and from this addressed location the data is loaded into R3 register. Then R1 gets incremented by 4. So from the new location pointed by R1 plus 4, the data is fetched and loaded into R5. Then again R1 is incremented by 8. So R1 plus 4 plus 4, and data is loaded into R6. Now the destination registers present here can also be consecutively mentioned. Suppose if we want to load 4 registers R3, R4, R5 to R6, we can directly give R3-R6. All the registers starting from R0 to R15 can be used as a destination register. So in this kind of instructions, multiple registers can be loaded with data by accessing multiple memory locations. Initially, one of the register has to be loaded with the base address. Now here this A stands for after. Similarly, there is another instruction LDMIB. M is for LDM stands for load multiple, I for increment, B is for before. Now if there is an A in the instruction, first the load operation or a store operation is performed, and after a load or after a store, the memory register's value is incremented or decremented depending upon whether this is I or a D. I can also be changed as a D. So in this given example, whatever value R1 was holding, from that memory location, data is loaded into R3. After loading, the value of R1 is incremented by 4 and the successive data are accessed and loaded into the corresponding destination registers. Now if in the next instruction LDMIB, where B stands for before, so before loading, address is incremented. So these are the address locations which will be accessed for this example. So R1 plus 4 will be loaded into R3 first, followed by R1 plus 8. From that memory location, data will be loaded into R5. R1 plus 12 will be loaded into R6. So before the data is loaded into the register, address is incremented and then data is loaded. So this is how LDMIB works. So apart from using I, we can also use decrement, D for decrement, and so there are 4 combinations: increment after, increment before. Similarly, decrement after, decrement before. So these two mnemonics can be used along with the load as well as store instructions. Here store multiple registers instruction is explained using an illustration. STMIA R9 comma within curly braces R0 comma R1 comma R5. So in this store instruction, the values stored in R0, R1, R5 have to be stored into the memory location pointed by R9. R9 register is holding the memory location's address. And see the mnemonics IA, increment after. So initially the register values are stored and then R9's value is incremented, that is the address is incremented. So assume R9 is holding the value 100C hexa value. R0's content is stored into the location 100C. After that, R9 is incremented by 4 and then R1 is stored. After R1 is stored, R9 is again incremented and R5 is stored. So in this way, the register contents R0, R1, R5 are stored from left to right. Similarly, in STMIB, store multiple registers and increment before. This increment before is meant for the register which is holding the memory address. So R9 is having the memory address which is incremented first, then the data present in R0, R1, R5 are consecutively loaded into the corresponding memory locations. So first R9 is incremented, then R0 is stored. So 100C is incremented by 4 and R0 content is stored. Again R9 is incremented and R1 is stored. Then again R9 is incremented and R5 is stored. So at the end of execution of this instruction, R9 will be pointing to this address 1018. So here again store instructions with decrement after and decrement before are illustrated. There is one point to be noted here. So first I'll explain how it works. STMDA R9 comma curly braces R0 comma R1 comma R5. So this instruction has to store the values present in R0, R1 and R5 into the memory locations pointed by the address in R9. So R9 is holding the memory address, and in the instruction we have DA, decrement after. So after store operation is done, the value in R9 has to be decremented. So STMDA works like this. It stores R5 content. We know that R9 is initially holding the value 100C. So R9 points to this location where R5 is first loaded. So in this kind of decrement after instructions, the register contents are stored from right to left. R5 is first stored, then the register content R9 is decremented and R1 is stored. Again R9 is decremented by 4 and R0 is stored. So this is how store multiple registers decrement after works. Now see this store decrement STMDB instruction. So this is about decrement before. So before the register contents are stored into the memory location, R9 has to be decremented. And assume R9 is holding the value 100C. So 100C has to be decremented first, and then R5 is loaded. So in this kind of decrement after, decrement before instructions, the order in which the register values are stored into the memory location are also reversed. So initially the address is decreased by 4, and in that new location R5 is loaded. Again R9 value is decremented by 4 and the next register content is loaded. Likewise it proceeds. So at the end of execution of this instruction, R9 will be pointing to this address 1000. So some important points to be noted is ARM does not support any hardware stack. There is no special memory location where stack can be implemented, whereas software stack can be implemented using load multiple and store multiple family of instructions. In the examples which we saw recently, the way in which the LDM STM instructions functioned are similar to push and pop instructions in the conventional architectures. So software stack can be implemented using LDM and STM family of instructions. In order to highlight the significance of multiple register load and store instructions, LDM and STM, let us consider a simple example. So here the problem is to copy a block of 128 bytes from one memory location to another memory location. For that we are making use of these 3 registers. R9 is used to hold the address of the source, that is the first address of this 128 bytes. R10 is used to hold the address of the destination, that is the starting address of the memory location where the 128 bytes have to be transferred. Then R11 is used to hold the end address of the source, that is the last address of this 128 bytes. Now if we see this set of codes, we are making use of LDM and STM instructions. So LDMIA, that is increment after instruction, will first load the register with the data pointed by the R9 register, and then it will increment. So here you can see we have made use of auto increment notation also, exclamatory notation. So R9 will get incremented automatically by 1 every time after the load operation is completed. So whatever memory location this R9 is pointing to, from that memory location data will be loaded into R0 first, then R9 gets incremented and R1 is loaded with that second data, and it continues till R7 is loaded. After that we are making use of the store multiple register instruction with increment after. So here R10 is holding the starting address of the destination location. So the registers starting from R0 to R7, that is 8 bytes, will be stored into the memory location that is pointed by R10 onwards. And then whether we have transferred all the 128 bytes or not is checked with by comparing R9 with the last address. So R9 is was initially initialized with the starting address, R11 is initialized with the end address of the source. So these two are compared to check whether all the 128 byte transfers are over or not. Branch if not equal to loop. So if the last address is not equal to R9 address, then the loop continues. So here at a time 8 bytes are transferred from one set of memory locations to another set of memory locations. So if we are using simple instructions like LDR and STR, the set of this loop has to go on for 128 times, and because there are 4 instructions in the loop, so 4 into 128, around 512 times the loop have to be executed. But if you are using LDM STM instructions, at a time 8 bytes are transferred and are loaded into the registers, and then they are stored in the memory locations also. So here now how many times this loop will be executed? It is 128 divided by 8, that is around 16 times. So just you can understand the difference or significance of LDM and STM instructions. So the number of times in the loop is executed has reduced drastically. But if we compare LDR and STR instructions with multiple load, multiple store instruction, the complexity of LDM and STM instructions are more compared to these instructions, that is LDR and STR. LDR and STR instructions can be executed within one cycle, one clock cycle, whereas LDM and STM will take more than one clock cycle. So though the complexity of the instructions are more, they can be efficiently utilized in the code to have a better to have a good speed up of the program. So these if we see the normal load store instructions, single register load store instructions, to complete this task the loop has to be executed more number of times. So certainly this will take more number of clock cycles than the multiple load store instructions. So already I have mentioned that ARM makes use of memory mapped IO. Here again it is repeated to show that LDR and STR instructions are used to receive input from input devices and send output to the output devices. So because of memory mapped IO, even the input output devices are referred using the same kind of addresses which are used to refer a memory location. So the memory address that is received by the address decoder considers that address similar to that of data memory address, and after decoding, if the address represents a particular input output port, then data transfer, that is input operation or output operation, takes place. To have input operation, that is to receive data from an input device and send it into the processor, LDR instructions are used. So this instruction will load the data from an input device into a register, and store instructions will send the data from a register to an output device. So this is how LDR and STR instructions are also used to get data from input devices and send data to the output devices. So there are no special instructions for handling input output ports. So far we have seen the two categories of instruction types: data processing instructions and data transfer instructions. The third category is control flow instructions. Control flow instructions change the order of the instruction execution. Normally, the program counter content is incremented by 4 and the next instruction is fetched and executed. If the instruction is a branch instruction, then the content of the program counter is changed, and the the order in which the program was executed gets changed. So there are 4 types of conditional flow instructions: unconditional branch, conditional branch, branch and link, conditional execution. Here examples for control flow instructions are shown. The first one is for unconditional branch instruction. B is the instruction. B is an unconditional branch instruction. The syntax is B followed by the label. Label indicates the memory location where the branch has to take place. Where the branch has to go. So B followed by target. Here target is the label used. So once this instruction is executed, immediately the program counter value will be changed to this memory address, and the instruction starting from this location onwards will be executed. So next is about conditional branch instruction. So in the following code, one of the instruction BNE is a conditional branch instruction. BNE stands for branch if not equal to. So this instruction will check the flag 0. So mostly the conditional branch instructions, they will check the flag bits, and depending upon whether the condition is satisfied or not, a branch will take place or not. So the format is this: BNE followed by the label. Here loop is the label used, and loop represents this memory location. So if the condition, if 0 flag is not set, then the loop continues. Then the same set of instructions starting from loop onwards are executed. If the 0 flag is set, once the 0 flag is set, then the following instruction to BNE will be executed. So before BNE, here you can see CMP instruction, compare instruction is used. We know that compare instruction compares, that is, it subtracts the second operand from the first operand. So while doing so, if the result is 0, the 0 flag will be set. So till, in this given example, till R2 equals 20, the zero flag will not be set. So when BNE instruction is executed, the loop will be continued. Once R2 equals 20, zero flag will be set by the CMP instruction. When the branch instruction is executed, zero flag will be 1. So the following instruction to BNE will be executed. So it will come out of the loop. So here some control flow instructions are listed. B and BAL, they do the same kind of operation. They are used as conditional branch, unconditional branch instruction. So once B or BAL instructions are executed, it will the control will be transferred to the location where which is specified along with the instruction. Then the remaining instructions are all executed if a condition is met. So BEQ, EQ stands for equal, B and E stands for branch not equal. So these instructions will check for zero flag. PL stands for positive and MI stands for minus. PL for plus, MI for minus. So branch if plus, branch if minus. Depending upon sign flag is set or reset, this branch instructions are executed and the branch will take or not. So this is actually not PMI, it is BMI. Now here BCC stands for carry clear, bit carry clear, branch if carry clear. BCS stands for branch if carry is set. CC for carry clear and CS for carry set. The next instruction BVC and BVS, they check the overflow flag. BC stands for overflow clear, VS stands for overflow set. The next one is BGT and BGE. GT stands for greater than and GE stands for greater than or equal. Then BLT and BLE. LT stands for less than and LE stands for less than or equal to. So in all these instructions, the control code, condition code flags are checked, and based on that the branch will take or not. Next type of control flow instruction is the branch and link instruction. The instruction is BL, and this is how it is used. BL followed by MySub. MySub is the label that represents the new memory location where the branch has to branch control has to go. And this branch link instruction is mainly used for calling subroutines in ARM. Whenever this instruction is executed, the return address is saved in the register R14, which is called as link register. So what is the return address? The current program counter value, PC value. So PC content, PC register is copied into R14, that is the link register, and the control is transferred to the location pointed by the label MySub. Now in the subroutine location, the instructions will be executed, and the last instruction should be move PC R14. So this R14 is now having the copy of program counter, that is the address of the instruction after the BL instruction. So this is how the control is transferred from subroutine to the main program. Now in this kind of branch and link instruction, that is if branch and link instruction is used in this fashion, we will not be able to have nested subroutine calls. That is, if we are once the control is transferred to the subroutine, within the subroutine another BL instruction should not should not be executed. What is the reason? Because if a BL instruction is executed within the subroutine, R14 register will be copied with the new PC value, that is the program counter value. So the previous program counter content, which is actually pointing to the next instruction below the BL instruction in the main program, will get erased. So that's why we cannot make use of a BL instruction within the subroutine if we make use of branch and link instruction in this way. But there is a way by which nested subroutine calls are made possible. The next type of control flow instruction is branch and link instruction. This is mainly used to implement software stack to save and restore the return address as well as some register values. So in the given example, we will also be seeing how multiple subroutine calls can be used, or nested subroutine calls can be used. So when this instruction BL MYSUB1 is executed, the program counter, which is pointing to the next instruction in the main program, will be copied into the link register R14, and control will be transferred to MYSUB1. In the first subroutine, the first instruction must be STMFD, which stands for Store Multiple Registers Full Descending Stack. So in this instruction, there must be a register which is holding the address of a memory location as base address, and there should be a list of registers which we want to save, and which should compulsorily include R14, because R14 is now holding the program counter content of the main program, and R13 is also auto decremented. So STMFD is a pre-decrement store instruction, which means that first R13 content, that is the address, is decremented, and then R0, R1, R2 followed by R14 are all stored into those memory locations pointed by R13. Here the next instruction is also a branch link instruction, BL MYSUB2. So again the program counter, which is pointing to the next instruction here in the first subroutine, will be copied into R14, overwriting the previous value in R14, and control will be transferred to MYSUB2. And assume that with this we are stopping the nested subroutine calls. So here in the second subroutine, the last instruction must be move PC, R14. So R14 is having the instruction, having the address of the instruction which is placed in the MYSUB1. So now control will be transferred to first subroutine, and it will start executing all the instructions. The last instruction must be load multiple registers full descending stack instruction, LDMFD. This instruction also makes use of the same base address register, and all the registers which we have already stored in a memory location, so those register contents are popped up. That is, this LDMF is a post increment load instruction. So first, from the memory location pointed by R13, data is loaded into R0, followed by increment of the R13 register. Then again R1 is loaded with the next address location, and so on till PC is loaded with the address which points to the location available in the main program. So this is how nested subroutine calls can be implemented, and also a software stack can be used to save and restore the return address and register values. So the next type of control flow instructions are conditional execution instructions. Conditional execution instructions are unique feature of ARM instruction set. This kind of instructions are executed only if a specific condition is true, and it helps in improving the performance of the program as well as the code density. So improving the performance means reducing the time to execute a particular instruction. Usually branch instructions take more amount of time for execution compared to conditional execution instruction. In the given example, we will see how code density is improved as well as the performance is improved by avoiding a branch instruction and reducing the number of lines of codes. So the condition to be implemented is, if R2 is not equal to 10, then R5 should be added with 10, and from that we have to subtract R3. So R5 equal to R5 plus 10 minus R3 is done only if R2 is not equal to 10. So first the compare instruction is used. CMP R2 comma hash 10 will compare and set the 0 flag or reset the 0 flag. Then the next instruction BEQ will check the 0 flag. If the 0 flag is set, it means R2 is equal to 10 and R5 should not be added with 10 or R3 should not be subtracted. So it will skip these two instructions and come here. So if the 0 flag is set, this happens. If the 0 flag is not set, it means that R2 is not equal to 10, and then the add operation and subtract operation has to be performed on R5 content. So add R5 comma R5 comma 10 followed by sub R5 comma R5 comma 3. Now the same instruction, the same set of that is the expression can also be implemented using only 3 sets of instructions. The first instruction is compare instruction, and this will either set or reset the 0 flag depending upon what value is stored in R2. The next instruction is add NE, that is add not equal to. So this is a conditional execution instruction. It will check for the condition here, because not equal to is used. This equal to and not equal to conditions will check for 0 flag. So if the 0 flag is set, it means that R2 is equal to 10, and so this instruction will not be executed. When it comes to the next instruction sub NE, again because 0 flag is set, this instruction also will not be executed. So in this way these two instructions can be skipped if R2 is equal to 10. If R2 is not equal to 10, then the 0 flag will not be set. So when add instruction checks whether 0 flag is set or not. If 0 is not set, it is not equal to, so this instruction will be executed. Similarly, the next sub instruction also will check again the 0 flag, and this instruction will be executed. So this is how the performance of the program can be improved, as well as the code density can be improved. So here all the post-fix conditions are listed. CS stands for carry set, EQ for equal, VS for overflow set, GT for greater than. Likewise, nearly 16 post-fix conditions are present. This can be used along with any of the data processing instructions, and we can prevent using branch instructions. Let us see one more example. The program has to implement this expression: if R1 is equal to R3 and if R5 is equal to R6, then only R7 should be added with 10. So only if these two conditions are met, R7 should be added with 10. So if the first condition is not met, straight away we need not compare R5 with R6 or add R7 with 10 and come out. If the first condition is met, then we have to check for the next condition. Check whether R5 is equal to R6, and if this condition is also true, then only we have to add R7 with 10. If the second condition is not met, we can come out. So this is implemented in using assembly, this ARM instruction set. So CMP R1, R3 compare R1, R3, and if 0 flag is set, it means that the condition is met. If 0 flag is not met, we have to come out. So branch not equal to, it will skip, come out. If 0 flag was set, it means that first condition is true, and again we have to compare R5 with R6, CMP R5, R6. Again the 0 flag may be set or may not be set. If 0 flag is set, it means the second condition is also true, so we have to add 10 with R7. If the second condition is not met, again comes to skip. So here we have made use of 5 ARM instructions. The same 5 instructions can be reduced to 3 instructions, and also we can avoid these branch BME instructions by making use of conditional execution instruction. So here CMP R1, R3 will check whether R1 and R3 are equal, and 0 flag will be set accordingly. If 0 flag is set, then only the next instruction will be executed. That is, we are including the condition in the instruction itself. CMP EQ will check for 0 flag. If it is set, then only R5 and R6 are compared. If it is not set, this instruction itself will not be executed and it will come to the next instruction. So again, add equal to will check the 0 flag. So because already this compare instruction has not set the 0 flag, add instruction, when it checks for 0 flag, it will be 0. So this instruction will not be executed. So if this condition is true, first condition is true, 0 flag will be set, and when it comes to the second instruction, again if R5 and R6 are equal, again 0 flag will be set. So depending upon this 0 flag set, the third instruction will be executed. So in this way, conditional execution instructions are preventing this branch instructions to be used, which take more amount of time to execute. So we are able to improve the performance of the code, as well as the code density is increased. There is one more instruction called as software interrupt instruction, or SWI instruction, which is used to enter the supervisor mode, usually to request a particular supervisor function, for example the input or output operations. So when this instruction is executed, the CPSR register, current program status register, is saved into the supervisory mode SPSR, that is saved program status register, and the execution branches to the SWI vector. Then the SWI handler will read the opcode to extract the SWI function number. So this is how SWI instruction is handled. Next, let us see some more informations about thumb instruction set. Thumb instructions are 16 bits in size. Because of that, the code density can be improved, and also thumb instructions are a subset of the functionality of ARM instruction set. We know that processor can switch between two states, that is, it can execute ARM instructions as well as thumb instructions. So to switch between the ARM state and thumb state, one instruction is used, which is BX. BX stands for branch and exchange. So branch and exchange. Here an exchange operation is done, which we won't be seeing elaborately here. Because of the branch and exchange operation, the state of the processor can be switched between ARM state and thumb state. And some more features of thumb instruction set is given here. Most of the thumb instructions are executed unconditionally, and these instructions also use two kinds of address formats. These address formats are less regular than ARM instruction formats. Because of this only, the code density is increased.